would you look at that? Wet palette, a miniature. Not going to be using that on the miniature itself. I am thinking that I actually have a couple of things that I'm like, yeah, no, I might just airbrush this up real quick, like this sneaky schneck, but I'm not going to be moving everything over for it because, well, I have this beautiful black mat that only cost me a total of €4 on the local everything store, and I figured that it would be kind of like okay to just airbrush here, just airbrush stuff real quick, and then get around to actually painting the Dragonborn. It's gonna be a good amount of fun because I had the first session of a campaign this weekend on Sunday, to be precise. And I've been writing for this particular session for a couple of months at this point. 2 months or so ish. 1 second, I stopped it. Oh wait, I have a wire. I've been writing for this particular session for like a total of 3 months or so. Just kind of preparing, like, okay, so what are the plot lines going to be like? And one of the plot lines that I had was that one of the characters who ended up one of the player characters. They are the Lord of, or they're the second in line of the of one of the kingdoms, or one of the houses in which this particular moment of the campaign takes part. And I had initially written down that I was going to have there be like 4 soldiers or something. Like the campaign is kind of based off of Fire Emblem. And it is a staple in Fire Emblem that usually the Lord characters, they enter a big old combat situation as all of a sudden there is a big invasion and it catches everyone off guard and no one is ready for it, and the Lord characters make it out, but at the cost of basically everything that they have known. And that is what this soldier was supposed to be about. He was supposed to be like, okay, so he is a soldier that's like, okay, I die so that you can get out just fine. That you can survive, that you can start your story. But the way that everything went, like, I had the players go up against a black Abishai who was hunting them, but not really hunting them. They were running the fuck away from that guy who probably threatened to kill them, and if he had got his hands on at least one of them, he probably would have killed them, but not too many of them. For the sake of the story. For the sake of drama. And what I had in mind was I would have 4 soldiers, Dragonborn soldiers, which is the player character's, the particular player character's race. And I would have 4 soldiers, that would end up dying, and there would be a big old dramatic moment in which one of them would be being carried up by a hand, and then they're like, "My lord, run!" And then they get impaled from behind. But some very clutch spell casting, a dissonant whispers from the bard character, and a bunch of lucky rolls, really. Like, that was a very lucky situation for this guy. Meant that he could get in a situation in which I was like, well, either I kill him, either he gets killed up front, or he gets killed on the bridge as as another player character's dad kind of protects everyone else from the Abishai as it makes its way in. But then he rolled a natural 20 on a survival roll, and I was like, well, god damn it, now he has to make it. He is a survivor. He survived it. So, with that in mind, I'm actually going to be painting this guy up properly. He's going to be a blue Dragonborn, and that is going to be a fun and interesting thing to do after, of course, I prime everything over here. Will this hold? Yes, it will hold. Okay. Well, you've all heard the airbrush before. If you've watched previous streams, you will be familiar with this thing. But this time you will notice that the holder is actually on its jar. I actually managed to get it to fit. The wear and tear and that nonsense, I actually managed to get it to fit onto the onto it what it was supposed to be able to fit onto, and that makes me very happy. I don't want it to be too. I don't want this shit to be too thick. So or at least I don't have that much to prime as I would previously. So I am going to be toning it back, just a little bit. Come here. Have that more or less set up. Chuck that in there. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna have to be a little bit gentle. Just kind of go through this Baunu Jushe from this month's Archvillain Games. I printed this guy a couple of days ago. I was like, well, it's always nice to have a couple of it's always nice to have a variety of monsters that you can throw at your players, and dragons and snakes and naga and stuff. They kind of fit into the campaign that we're going for right now. So I figured that having one of them would be at least one of them would be a good idea. We're going for. I will eventually be going for a second one, but I do have to get more resin. I have until next week Wednesday to get some extra characters printed out, because I'm a big fan of like using miniatures for D&D. That's probably like one of the big reasons why I'm still collecting miniatures to this day. Is the fact that I actually have a good deal of use for them for D&D, as well as just like tangential interest in how tabletop war games with miniatures and stuff like Warhammer Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40k. I have tangential interest in how that works. I have only ever played a single game of any tabletop war game done by Games Workshop, and that was a single game of the Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth game that they when that was still being released quite actively. Like nowadays, like they still have the miniatures on sale and stuff, but it's nowhere near as active as it was. Like it's, well, of course it's nowhere near as active. At this point, they've basically covered everything from the books that is mentioned, and you'd be going straight into stuff like the Silmarillion, for which there is no real physical representation possible, because, well, it hasn't been filmed. I mean, it has now, but that's Amazon. That's a very different set of rights than the ones that Games Workshop had, if I remember correctly. I believe that Games Workshop had the rights for basically whatever New Line Cinema did. So that would be The Lord of the Rings, that entire trilogy, The Hobbit, and nothing else. And Amazon specifically only got the rights for the Second Age. So I actually still haven't watched Rings of Power, like, at all. I am not someone who watches series or shows. Like the last show that I watched was She-Ra and the Princess of Power. Now that I think about it, and that was predominantly because I was receiving a lot of very good it was being given very good reviews by people that whose opinions I cared about. So I was like, okay, I'll give that a go, and it was worth it. Only it was the exception, not the norm. I don't watch shows. This. I have a couple of things that I want to get primed up. This snake being one of them, as well as 3 enemy characters, which I'm going to be using as the Fallen, which is the faction that the enemy faction that my players will be going against basically throughout the entire campaign. And there's going to be a couple of situations in which they don't go up against the Fallen, but their enemies are predominantly the Fallen. Their characters are very explicitly like, yeah, no, your entire nobility stems from the fact that your houses are the houses that have been standing against the Fallen for millennia at this point. I mean, effectively millennia. Whether it's actually millennia, I have no clue. That's one of those things of like, oh hey, fantasy timelines are all over the place. I'm not going to be making any statements about that. This is a fairly big miniature. Nowhere near as big as some of the dragons that I have. Like, you can tell that this is a miniature that is 75mm scale and has been made for 75mm scale, or 75mm bases. I have dragons around me, all over the place that are like, yeah, no, we're on a 75mm scale. I am bigger than a sheet of A4 paper. This base only just barely holds me. And that is going to be a lot of fun to paint up, but I will absolutely have to fucking use an airbrush for it. And it will take me a very long time. And I have too much stuff to paint. As well as big projects that I'm like, yeah, no, I want to do that. Like Jaime, Stola. Like for Stola, I actually have a deadline for myself that I'm gonna have to stick, that I want to stick to, which is FanFest, London FanFest in October, and then I want to do my best to get it to Yoshi P. Like, unfortunately, I don't have a Clive or I know of a Clive, a big Clive sculpt that is being done by Bulkmancer, I think they are on Patreon. Like they posted on the Final Fantasy 16 subreddit where I have been fairly active at this point. It's the first time that I'm actually kind of actively alongside everyone else as they're kind of processing a game, kind of like dealing with all of that. And so I'm kind of like going through it with everyone, and I'm like, well, I have plenty of experience with how Creative Business Unit 3 does stuff because I play a lot of Final Fantasy 14. And actively follow its world and those particular developments, so I have a fairly good idea of how they write games and how they approach this kind of thing. So I'm like, well, I would like to proffer my opinions and eventually see if I'm right. But there was a 3D sculpt, Pokemon, so I believe it's kind of like how Nom Nom Minis works, which is like, okay, they have sculptors that do sculpts and stuff. They have like a couple of artists that are like, you know, we do this thing this month. And kind of this month's choice was Clive, and I was like, are you guys going to be doing Jill? And are you going to be releasing these miniatures in anything smaller than like Stola scale? I hope they will, because I would like to have Clive and Jill miniatures in 32mm scale, because I am a mini painter first and foremost. But as I was saying, I actually have a couple of deadlines for those big things. Stola for FanFest, so that is end of October. And Kaine, I want to send over to some friends, as well as the second thing that I'm going to be airbrushing, which is, I thought this guy actually has a fairly decent layer of paint. I think I'll actually show him. It actually works. I do have to think of a better thing to do with the cable, because it's not going to end well like this. It's kind of dangling over the edge. Put this over here. The second thing that I'm going to be painting, for fuck's sake, 1 second. You might already see it based on the Buster Sword. It's Cloud. This is gonna be hell in transportation. How was he? I will say so. Ugh, great. I'm not going to bother correcting the pose for this. But he has already had his wrist broken off. Now it's the Buster Sword's turn. So I'm going to have to be very careful. I think this thing just entirely is also broken off a couple of times. This one little bit over there is broken. Come on. But as I was saying, this like Kaine is going to be for a friend of mine, and this Cloud here is going to be for her partner. Very good cosplays of, well, Kaine and Cloud, so it makes sense that I'm going to be doing something for them. I consider them good friends, only I've never actually met them in person. I think I'm going to have to find a way to kind of just have him set down with the Buster Sword in its location. Fuck me. I really should get my hands on a welding parts holder. God damn it, Cloud, why must you be like this? I think this might be a better fit. It needs another piece of support. Great. I'm fixing it. Don't worry, little Cloud Jewel. I can fix you. Fanfic communities in the early noughties be like. But imagine what I can only imagine what that would be like a fanfic community in early 2000s. Back when Cloud and shit was still relevant. I mean, they're relevant now, but like fanfic as a concept, especially online, has just developed so much at this point that I kind of get the feeling that the approach that people would have to fanfic would be very different compared to how they how like some of the original fanfic writers would be approaching it. Come on. I'm not sure why this particular brand, this particular resin is not playing nice with my super glue or any of my stuff. Shame on me for not having something like super glue activator with me. Having some period. Sure, shit could use it right now. If I can salvage it, I might actually consider pinning this together. But no, at this point I kind of feel like the super glue is going to be a little too set. At this rate, I might just reprint this part. Gil, if you're watching this, this is one of the biggest fucking annoyances I have with 3D printing at the moment. People that make thin parts and resin that cannot handle it well. Let go of the debris. Super glue that. Super fucking annoying for it. Yeah, no, you'll absolutely notice it. Ah, great. I don't have the time for this. I'll deal with this later. Shame! I was looking forward to getting this cloud primed. But then I had to be a dumbass and tick it against that. We will fix later. In the meantime... bit of stuff primed, and then move on to what we actually want to do, which is paint. Hey there, Afrem. I think this is probably a different name on my list of NPCs for this world. Because this is going to be more of a long form campaign, I'm actually going to be sticking to using a list of. A pre-generated list of NPC names, and then just like marking it off, and having to roll a. What I'm going to be doing is it's going to be 2d20 and a d10, and add all that up, and that number is the NPC name. 50 male, 50 female names. using those when it becomes relevant. But Afrem, very specifically, because he was in that first session and didn't have a name, I'm like, well, that'll be the first role. That'll be the first name that I take. Afrem, Soldier of Nuria. I'll probably end up being like, yeah, no, he's related to the player character, but like a cousin, like once or twice removed. A very, very, very minor offshoot family that at one point was just kind of like, yeah, no, we can't be bothered dealing with nobility and all that nonsense. So they just didn't. Also, I think his sheath snapped off. It seems like a very likely thing for me to have done at some point with this thing. Like one of the miniatures over here, they have this big cleaver that they have overhead, and that broke off in the middle of the game. So it is very likely that there's going to be more stuff, as I use these miniatures more, that I find that is broken. But in particular, just like a lot of these things that are just like, yeah, no, they're very fun miniatures. Like, I like a lot of what Archvillain Games does, but by God, the amount of detail that goes into it is absolutely fucking staggering. Probably a bit too much. So I'd probably mostly recommend them for like some of their bigger projects. Like the snake I just primed. That would be the kind of project that I'm like, yeah, no, you can consider Archvillain Games for it. They do fairly decent larger monsters. Like I could use that thing for a Naga or something. Maybe an oversized Naga, but a Naga nonetheless. I've actually never really stopped to consider like the logistics behind D&D sizes. That is something that I'm going to have to look into and consider at some point. Now, this is going to make for a very fun NPC model. Like that's also something that I recommend Archvillain Games for. Like every month they come with three named character NPC/character models, and you can use them for a bunch of different things. Like one of their character models from I believe it was the Speak of the Devil? It was one of the more recent ones that they did. And they had a Goliath there, or something that looked like a Goliath. Whether it actually is a Goliath, I have no clue. I didn't bother to check. But it functions as a Goliath, so I'm going to use it as an important Goliath NPC. For one of the characters. So, for the DMs among us here, do you guys ever run into those situations in which you're like, oh, we did this, but fuck, I forgot to mention this or that? Because I'm having one of those moments right now. I'm thinking like, okay, so Goliath, for that particular character, tying them into the backstory, and how am I going to do that? Oh, by having the leader of the mercenary faction that he's a part of be that character, and then I'm like, well, I didn't bother to mention him during the game itself. Good job, Thomas. Well done. But I have a lot more of those moments with this particular instance. Like, yeah, no amount of preparation that you can do, or no amount of preparation that I could do, would have helped me kind of keep tabs on everything that I wanted to mention. I will always think of something, and like I could have done that better. But that's just how D&D goes, especially the DM. No clue what your players are going to throw at you, so the best thing to do is just like not prepare too much. And just let the players dictate where they go or where everything goes, and you react to that. Especially with the kind of campaign that I want to run out for this, I do have to keep a couple of things in mind and not let my players kind of sweep me away too much, because they can do it fairly easily. D&D is a lot of jokes and in-jokes and dirty jokes. There's a good amount of that with me playing with like 4 guys and 1 girl, and she seems to be fairly okay with people making dirty jokes around her. Every now and then she'll join in as well. So it's very much so a matter of like, okay, I have to figure out where exactly the line is and how do I keep the things that I want to have in the game, how do I keep that in the game without making her feel, well, too bad about it. But don't want too much, because there is only really 1 mini to do. And I'm not going to bother with second passes, and I'm not going to bother with Cloud. And that should be enough. And for this, I will actually just blow back. There we go. That looks good. Now, this mini that I'm going to put on the holder now, this is the one that had the cleaver break off. You might actually even be able to see it. Much of the top cover as I can. This might actually be the smoothest prime that I have on this particular mini, or on these minis. I'm putting a little bit more force into it, so I think it's on a little better. Alright, so it's best to kind of let it wait until everything's kind of dried. And they can actually make out a lot of the details. Okay, that's that done. And first I'm actually using this thing in a somewhat completed state. It's all very new to me. I'm also running out of airbrush cleaner. Great. Also should consider getting Q-tips for this. There's bits and pieces of the airbrush that you can't really reach, normally speaking. Do this one more time. Plus that in there. Right. Up. Dusty ass tissue paper. Normally I'd be like, use kitchen roll, and I have toilet paper with me right now. So I will use toilet paper instead. Normally this would be the last thing I do on the stream, but because we are still going to be painting, I will also still do a little bit of this. And yeah, I'm probably going to just reprint the cloud and the Buster Sword. Grabbing the glove for the painting. I have enough of those things. So they're that expensive. And they're latex, so it's not like it's the end of the world environmentally. Now these wet wipes, they are absolutely the end of the world environmentally. I just saw this fairly interesting post online somewhere in which there was some dude kind of walking around with trash bags attached to him, and he kind of just everything that he consumed he threw in there. He had by the end of everything he had a fairly full-on set of trash bags, which was fairly interesting to see. Like I mentioned, not going to be worrying too much. So we're actually going to be doing some painting now. There we go. Big old fucking cable. This over here. Point. That major was unstable from the get-go. So I'm gonna have to do something with that base of his. Make sure that he does remain stable. But now we're actually gonna get to painting. Unfortunately, you guys aren't really gonna get to see a lot of the detail that I do in there, so you're just gonna have to go off of base colors. Like, I have to figure out how exactly I can get this. This webcam should be able to handle 1080p, so I kind of have to see how I'm going to be able to get that represented on the stream as accurately as possible. And I might have to move some stuff around. Like, I definitely do still want to get the document camera that I kind of hang over everything here. But that is when I have the money available for. That is a piece that is too big. Both of these pieces are too big. I think that of these two pieces, this would be the one that's the best fit, yeah. I am using just regular old kitchen roll for this. Okay. Okay then. Let's get started. First off, you Chinese lady, get off. Here we go. Dragonborn. I'm kind of thinking about how exactly I'm going to be approaching the colors for this. Like, do I want to stick in the realm of gray, or do I want to, be like, you know, it's more solid blue? Kind of looking at my options here, because I could start out with a very solid blue, or he goes something with a little bit that's a little bit more a bit more military based. Now this would be a much more vibrant blue color, but for this I have more that I can build off of. Then again, I can always just kind of end up mixing. I think I'll do that then. Start out with this, and then add a couple of layers of this invariably blue cut blue. And that would be on the skin, or the visible skin rather. Size 1 synthetic. Size 1 synthetic for this. Da Vinci. Ivory's a little bit colder, so that'll be like the very highlight, the very highest highlight. Add some ivory when I get to it. I think that for today we're just going to be focusing on the skin down. It's actually going to be some of the first paint that I put to miniature in a while. Because I'm a man of many hobbies. Miniature painting is one of them. Unfortunately, because it's only one of them, it doesn't mean that I will spend all my time miniature painting. I could probably go for a bigger brush for this. Go for a wolf hair size 2s. I kind of get the feeling that this paint has too much of its medium still kind of floating around in it. If I feel that, it's probably right. This is a gel medium paint, so I'm not quite as familiar with it as I would be with like a Citadel Cantor Blue, for example, or Incubi Darkness. just from looking at it like that, it already looks like it's flowing a bit better. I think that might as well just be like a feature of the paint. Or it is a problem with the wet palette paper that I'm using. I need to wait for my for the Kickstarter, the palette that I backed on Kickstarter to show up. This is kitchen roll that I'm using at the moment. Probably not the best of ideas to do that. Kitchen roll, but I'd run out of paper. And it does its job. I'm already noticing that there's going to be a bunch of details that I'm going to have to add on here. The gold rings on the locks of this Dragonborn. Lights up a little bit. So I'm gonna watch out that I don't break off the sword. That'll be something that I do. Do it, I'll be like, God damn it, Thomas, you told yourself so. Do I want to get too depth on painting this guy? Probably not. Powdered latex gloves. Probably have to go a couple of times over this. Or actually, I'll have to wait for it to dry first before I make any statements about whether I'm going to have to go over it again or not. I don't think I will. But I don't think that there's going to be too much blue on this guy either. So blue kind of in this case functions as a highlight color. Or an accent color, rather. I have to look a little bit more into the yellows, for the tunic, a little bit more yellow, a little bit more sandy colors. Summer beach vibe. Only then. Summer beaches of Normandy vibe. The attack was being done in clear weather. What a way to refer to the paint scheme that I'm going for. Yeah, it's beaches of Normandy, but then if it was done in the summer. One hell of a description, Thomas. the blue kind of dries up. I can see it, but with all the black there, it doesn't come out as strong as I would have wanted it to, but that is fine. Gives me stuff to work off of. Imperial blue really is just kind of like a base color, I feel like. You can faintly see the blue there. All that cat hair getting in the way. Curse of having cats. And don't get me wrong, I never curse having cats. Couldn't imagine my life without them, but on occasion, just when I look at some of my stuff, it's like, okay, there's a lot of cat hair there. Kind of all over the place. Also see that there's a lot of... over there, there's a lot of chainmail and stuff. Let's move this out of the way. Do I want to do reddish gray? I don't want to start more like a Rakarth flesh. Let's focus on the skin for now. What was that? One. Here we go. Good shaking. Join me. Give it a good shaking. And that shouldn't be happening. I'm only really going to bother leaving the blue in the bases, or in the recesses. So they build up like 3 layers of highlights, I think would be the best in this situation. It's a little bit too much water, but oh well. People always say go thinner than you think you need to go. But man, toilet paper isn't necessarily the best thing that you can use for this, because if you want your paint to flow, you do kind of need it to flow off. For that, you need moisture in your brush. So what I mean with like having a good brush really helps out with keeping an eye on all the details that you're putting in there. As I mentioned during that very first stream, actually, I've had this brush for a while now. At least 10 years. It's still incredibly precise. As I mentioned, just keep the dark blue in the deepest recesses here. Am I losing detail there? Probably. Surprised that some of the primer didn't go on well. Kind of spy a couple of like holes in the top. Kind of spy a couple of holes in the top there. Now with this guy, I'm not too particularly worried about getting a lot of detail on him because, as I mentioned, it's probably not a miniature that they're going to be seeing too often. And they're going to have to get back into painting miniatures again, because as I mentioned, it has been a while since I've actually sat down and done a lot of miniatures. And that's probably also one of the reasons why I'm kind of like, yeah, no, I wanted to stream that stuff, because having a motivation to do it and a reason to do it outside of, well, I want to, definitely helps out, I find. Yeah, no, I definitely think that and then a little bit of ivory for the last highlight layer is definitely going to be like a good idea. good deal too bright. Might be too big for the wet palette, but I'm gonna use it to see how the light would look if I diffused it. I'd actually have to look at the IKEA has those options for the lamps that I have, because these are two IKEA lights that I have set up here. I need to diffuse it. Oh, that paint get there. Interesting. A second layer, and I think that if I go for a finer brush, I probably will be able to get a lot of the finer details here, at least on the upper layers. I don't remember why I didn't necessarily use this brush as much anymore. Very, very quickly. Of course, once you lick something, you'll find that you immediately get a finer point on it. And I hadn't licked on it. This was a size 0. A Da Vinci. Size 0. I don't know why they do that, because as I look at this brush, it's like, yeah, no, you can very clearly see where I bought this brush, because they had it, the name of the store printed on the, like, actually printed on the side of the brush. I'm like, why? Why would you do that? Do you want to DDoS? Do you want to dox people? This actually is a fairly fine brush. And I recall that it doesn't hold paint. Including the talons. Keep the deepest recesses, keep them imperial blue. Everything else builds up, no need to worry about cell shading. Any of that nonsense. Again, I would like to remind people that I cannot hear the music that you are listening to. Why would I not listen to Pokemon-y goodness? Well, that is because this particular PC does not have a functioning speaker set up. And I tried, like I really tried to troubleshoot the speaker problems that this PC was having, but it just refused. So I figured that in that case, well, I'll just listen to something on my own. Leave you guys with the better music. If the Pokemon soundtrack is actually like a lot of the soundtracks to the Pokemon games are actually fairly good. You can say what you want about the franchise, but the music is good. The music is enjoyable. It's iconic at times. Like, I think that most kids, or at least most people of my generation, the moment you hear the words "I want to be the very best," I think that most people will be able to sing along the rest of the song, like all of it. Let's switch back over to World 1. Because I feel like that would be a better idea. Let's see how this... Oh yeah, I remember this one. This one was very thin for a 1. Going through my brushes again, just kind of seeing what I'm like. Yeah, no, I like using that. As much as I like the wolf hair brushes, as much as I like the size and the chunkiness of them, I don't think that they can keep a point as well as I would want them to be able to. Kind of pop back and forth away from them. Is this a hot mess? Absolutely. But not everything needs to be in a piece of art. Sometimes you just need to have minis that are painted and put on the table. And that is kind of the approach that I'm having with a lot of the miniatures. That I'll have with a lot of the miniatures that I end up painting going forward. I'd much rather have them painted and on the table artwork and not on the table. And this kind of forces me to also focus on different aspects of painting, kind of get back into the flow of things. Also teaches me a couple of valuable lessons in terms of like paint preparation, miniature preparation, stuff like, hey, all that cat hair that you have flying around, yeah, no, that's going to get in the way. I might want to do something about that. I think that's definitely something that I'm going to have to do once I'm done here today. Clean up the cat hair. Oh wait, does this guy have a glove? He does have a glove. Great. Even better. To paint even less. Amazing. Or at least he has a glove on his left hand. His right hand. I honestly can't tell if he has a glove on his right hand either. Left is all that I can tell. What time is it? It is a little bit close to 9:30, so I will get up, stretch. You should do the same as well. I'll go get myself some better functioning paper than this, because if I just do it on this, it's just going to suck everything out. So I will be right back. See you in a few. Shoot. And we're back. Hope you guys also got up and did a little bit of stretching, walked around a bit, drank some water. Drinking water and hydrating is very important. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure you do it. I think that this is also kind of like the limit that I'm gonna go for most of the stuff down here. Just like this this initial layer of this deeper highlight color. Continue to revisit up here. Actually, the color establishes itself nicely. Maybe not necessarily on all of the highlights that I want, but Also, since this is kind of like this is supposed to be on a more skinny area, or would you call it skin on a Dragonborn, or would it be the scales? I'd be more inclined to call it the scales. Like, since there's more of like the scaly area, I do think that I don't necessarily have to be the biggest stickler for the transitions being entirely smooth, or the paint blends on my palette to be perfect. I don't have to worry about that because, well, it is a part of the miniature where those blends, those naturally occurring blends that kind of come about as you mix stuff repeatedly and in a different way every time. That kind of lends a little bit of the credibility to it. Keep on focusing on having the light up there. So kind of have to think about what the shit, like the color of his eyes are gonna be. Leave that blue kind of in the deepest recesses. There, but that would be more or less it. Blue is absolutely a very weird paint to work with. At least this paint is. The medium is very different to what I'm used to. But then again, I haven't really been painting a lot recently, so I might have lost the touch. I might have lost the hand. But I do notice that it's kind of getting back to me. I just slowly go over it again. Like, I can already tell that this is looking a little bit better than when I did my first few layers. The brush also isn't as bad as I had thought that it was. Like, I initially went for those other brushes because they had the bigger handles. Like, if I had a brush that was about this precise, held paint about as well as this, and held those handles, I absolutely would go for a brush like that. In terms of like tip, this is more like a size 0, not necessarily a 1. much smaller. You spotted that there. That's like the amount of detail that I can go into with this kind of brush. It's one of those size ones in which it's like, are you sure it's a size 1? Yes, it's a size 1 because it says so on the brush, of course. But other than that, well, the amount of detail that I can work into stuff and definitely just make it feel like a size 1. Get some of that straight Ducat blue in there. Of course, you do want to make sure that your brushes don't get absolutely fucked up by your painting. Make sure that your paint does not reach your ferrule. Be very careful, ladies and gentlemen. And now that we're going one shade of blue higher, now we're actually going to start focusing a little bit further on just the highlights. All the times that curse having cats, this is probably one of the times. Especially the long-haired cats, like, it is very difficult to not have hair be everywhere here. I think that also kind of botched up the airbrushing. Got in the way. Start messing. With the flow of air and paint onto the miniature. Especially on the places where you would expect there to be more detail. Oh, I'm actually fairly happy with how that is shaping up. Focus on the ridges and the shit that catches light. I definitely have to go through everything, kind of make sure that it isn't completely covered in cat hair going forward. Also, kind of looking at how everything's going from here, like I'm pulling the miniature close to myself, and because of the way that the camera is pointed, like I kind of need to have it here, which is a little bit too far away from me for my taste. And I'm not happy with the resolution. Let me see if I can do anything about that. Cancel. .1080p. This resolution is 1080p, but I think that it might, because it's a digital zoom, that you don't need to catch it. So what happens if I change it to device default? Never mind. That did not work at all. I think it might just be that this camera is just not that good. tweaking with my shit. Yeah. That looks even worse. Like, you can only see the color like that. Ugh. Right. Yeah, no, I definitely think that the original idea that I had of like, okay, so that camera is just kind of to be the entire setup camera, and then have a specific camera kind of somewhere that just focuses very much so on what it is that I'm painting, that I can kind of look and paint. But that is a much better idea for this kind of thing. Now, with it just being a highlight, you don't necessarily need it to be too prominent everywhere. This is what people are going to be looking at. I'm going with a very fine brush to get the eyes out. Car predicament. Very little on that gill there. I do see a little bit more toning from this. It definitely feels a lot more like it's a little bit more of a sketchy color. A little bit of light, kind of like they're coming down over this way. Not too much. Kind of be like, you know, this is where most of the light is falling, and then kind of leave it there. Just looking at it from the top, you can see that there's kind of a little bit more visible over there in terms of his skin, and a little bit over there, and the fact that I can't tell whether this is a the fact that I can't tell what whether he has a glove on this hand is very annoying. Kind of leave it at that. Now I guess I kind of have to think about what I'm going to be doing with this tunic. I think that what I'm going to be doing is start out with a sand yellow. I don't want it to be ochre. I might want want his horns and stuff to be ochre. But just for the tunic? I think I'll go for these two colors building into each other, and then constantly have like a little bit of ice yellow mixed in there. This is a Citadel paint, and it's been a while since I've used one of these, and these things are incredibly watery. Ugh, great. Pull the lid out along with it. Ugh, where are my tweezers? Here we are. Two drops Rakarth flesh. Put that back there. Like, and it's also the fact that I don't want the tunic to be just like only yellow, kind of blaring against the lighter blue that I have established. I kind of want it to be a little bit more of a dulled color. So I think that what I might do, just start out with a base layer of Rakarth's flesh. Just to kind of see how that base color goes with the blue. Build up from there. Because this is probably going to be the only part of this this fellow that has this kind of bright color on the front. And then have the tunic there be something else. And maybe have the highlight kind of a little bit focused here, so have a little bit, like when I start mixing in the ivory with the light color, or with the blue, have it be, have all the highlights just kind of focused kind of around his sword and his armpit. Actually very interested in what exactly it is that my players are going to end up doing with the campaign as I kind of get it going. This guy's survival, as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, isn't necessarily something that I'd planned on, but I definitely welcome it. I actually think that is one of like the better things that you can do as a DM for Dungeons & Dragons or role-playing games in general. Is always just be open for to have your stuff changed. This guy was originally going to die, but didn't. To welcome that kind of thing. only that way does the story stop being only your own, it also becomes your player's story. Now, why should you care about the story that you want to tell becoming the player's story? Because, well, if you wanted to just be your own story, buddy, you can go write a book. And let me tell you, as someone who's tried, it can be difficult to kind of keep the motivation going for writing a book. It can be very hard to keep that kind of motivation going. It's a lot of work, and I think that a lot of people kind of underestimate how much work goes into actually like writing a book properly. Well, and that also just isn't as fun because everyone just kind of has different ideas about how their characters operate and how everything works. And you can definitely have your own biases kind of slip through if you focus solely on just kind of being like, yeah, no, it's like this because I wanted it to be like this. Now, of course, it's fine if you just like write your own stuff for the sake of having it written down. But it's always a lot more fun if everything just kind of like reacts in ways that you didn't think it would. Like, one of the reasons why I wrote fanfiction, continue to write fanfiction on occasion, is that, like, one of the most enjoyable things about that is that I could have, that I had characters that kind of had to react to the setting that I had set out for them, and do so in their own way, a way that I didn't necessarily predict. And because with fanfiction, because you as a writer have a bit better of an idea, and the universe kind of has a bit better of an idea as to what the character is like. You don't have to go through all of the hassle that comes with making your own characters. Like, figuring out who they are as people, you can kind of like operate off of what someone else has in mind for the character, or what you think that person has in mind, and you just kind of give it a little twist of your own. Like, the last fanfic, the most recent fanfic that I wrote is it's an S-pop fanfic. Kind of one of those, the Aftermath fanfics that I have a history of writing. I hate that that's not sharp. I hate that you guys can't see the details that I see. The stream app definitely needs some technical upgrades. I'm not happy with how this is, how this particular miniature painting is going. But I do kind of want to keep on streaming, because just talking about miniature painting and nonsense, to be frank, I like doing it. Just talking about nonsense. Shooting the shit, even if there's no one listening. Very happy to just do that. Of course, it's more fun with more people listening, having a discussion with people, but very okay with me not having an idea. Okay, how's that kind of look? You know, I'm not too unhappy with how this looks. Let me actually look something up. Not. Figure video, camera control. Good privates. Like, I'm actually kind of curious, is this zoom, like, I don't think that the zoom actually does, there we go. It does something up until a certain point. HD focus range, because that might be it. What's the focal distance? Focus at is zero. Focus is at almost anything. Including yourself in the background, anything less than zero. Let's see if this does anything to help. It could very well be that I don't have my driver set up properly. Because as I mentioned, this is an old PC. Very old PC. CPU almost feels like it's shitting the bed right now. So I actually don't mind that color combination. I also noticed that it's kind of delayed now. Hit that there. Go for a dirty-ish gray. I think I'll go for like something like Mechanica Standard Gray. For the pants, but we're not doing the pants right now. We are going to be doing one layer of highlights and then to be going in with some ivory or some ice yellow, and then we're going to be adding one layer of like actual lights. And I'm going to be dealing with this setup. And then we will be back at some point later on to continue with this nonsense. There we go. Now the light is kind of like focused around here-ish. Next, 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 next. Actually, no, no, no. Skip, 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 skip. Thanks, got it. Go away. Go away. I'll get back into looking into the settings and stuff later. Focus on having the light here. It's also very annoying that the cat hair keeps on getting in the way. How much I love my cats. I'm going to try to remove what I can once I reach it. I'm also going to call my grandparents once I'm done here. My grandpa, sweet old man, or my grandpa's a figure that, like, he has a history of my grandpa is a diabetic, and because of that he's taken very good care of his health and stuff, and as a result of that he's actually very, like, he actually managed to stave off the kind of like very clear signs of old age for a very long time. But it appears that everything's kind of caught up with him now. So he no longer really feels as... He doesn't feel like this. I wouldn't say the same. Like, he still feels like the same man, but he very clearly is slowly coming to the realization that he cannot be the same person that he was when I was a kid. So he's getting a lot more like, yeah, no, I want to call with my grandkids, and why won't you call, and why didn't you call me? Oh, you said you would. It's always just kind of fun to not talk with a man, so I think I'll just go and give him a call once we're done here. And one of the greatest things that I also kind of note about, like, painting details like this, kind of like trying to focus the light around like a particular area, is that I find that if you move the model around, you get a much better view of how everything's supposed to look, how the light's supposed to fall. And if you only do everything just from like one specific angle, then you don't always get all the light in the places that you want it to be in. Just kind of like focused around here-ish. So this side here should have more light. It's kind of more focused up to the top, which it appears to be doing. Clean up a little bit more. Get rid of the hair where you can find it. Are you talking about pubic hair? Did I say that? Surely not. Thomas saying something like that? No, absolutely not. What do you mean he watches more goons? I need to clean these things off. You can tell that there's a lot of paint on them. Then we're going to be doing one last thing, which is adding a little bit of ivory and kind of mixing up some paint and kind of just focusing where I want the light to be. Ducal blue? Ducal blue? Ducat blue? Ducat blue. It's a bit lighter version of the paint. Wake it off on a part of the towel that has wetness in it. Focus in on some of the very minute details here. Catch on some of the higher edges. The light kind of comes from here. I would catch on some bits and pieces of everything, but I would only really catch it from one particular angle. Up here-ish. I mean that as highest highlight, this area here also gets little bits of paint. Frills there. Sure, why not? Get some more. Blue. Instantiate a bit more of it here because it is kind of faded out. You can very clearly see that it has more of a focus. Like, even if you just look at it like this, you can very clearly see that there's more kind of over there. But I'm glad to see that at least that kind of mixes up well. Ugh, blue. There. This here. To brighten up. That'll be basically the same color. And focus this kind of on the highest areas. right here, and then I will come back in and blackline a lot of the transitions. That's gonna be fun. Kind of focused over there, and then I'm gonna have to continue kind of like working in more ivory to like a lot of the spots that kind of line up with everything here. But yeah, it is currently a little bit past 10 o'clock, and I do have to be in bed on time, and to prevent myself from not falling asleep, or prevent myself from staying awake, I do have to hit the hay at a fairly decent time, and unfortunately that time is now. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching if you did. Next stream, I'm not entirely sure when that's going to be. Might be tomorrow, might be Friday. I probably will end up doing a little bit of painting tomorrow, just in my own time, without having to play for anything. So, yeah. I will see you guys in a bit. Ta-ta. Catch you later.